Hello and welcome back to the HH Gaming podcast, where today is effectively going to be put out the morning after the night before because we are all meeting up tomorrow for a Christmas party. But we've got loads of things to discuss over this podcast. We've had obviously patch 4.9 go into Raid Shadow Legends, which has brought the dupe system along with some other changes which are going to be going in the future. But I guess to get started and jump into it, how's everyone's week or 2 weeks been, I guess, since the podcast went out? What's everyone been up to?
Well, I'll kick off. I've been playing Raid.
No life thing, test server.
Yeah, and I'm moving house. I'm moving house really
Finally.
soon, like 9 days time. So it's pretty hectic for me because I'm trying to get some content pre-done just in case like I have internet issues or connection issues or stuff when I get into the new place. So yeah,
It's funny. Cool. It's kind of like you've been waiting for the house for months and months and months, and then instantly the moment it's all signed, it's like, right, you're gonna move like tomorrow. It's like,
yeah. And now it's
right.
kind of stressful. Yeah,
and they would do it around Christmas and every other, they couldn't do it in like September when there was no big raid updates and it was quite quiet. No, they had to do it dead on when Hydra was coming out, dupe system, Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Tellurium probably planned it to give the other content creators a bit of an edge over you during that process. They're like, right, okay, so HellHades is moving on, what is it, the 6th of December? He's announced that and put that out to people. So we're going to drop Hydra the day after when we know that he's not going to be there.
Yeah, don't count me out yet, Tellurium. I'm coming.
It was bad enough Monday when it was just like one info drop and then the next info drop and then the next, like, oh, seriously, can you stop? Enough. Too much.
In terms of sorting out internet for the new house, is that something that now that you've got a moving date that you can plan ahead, or?
I don't think so. I think I'm actually going to speak to the current owners in the next, or probably today, and just see if I can. But I'm not sure that I can in terms of setting up a contract with someone if I'm not there. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'll find out.
Be like, I'll pay for your internet for a week before you move out, just so that I've got it when I move in.
Yeah,
it really depends what they've got there. I think when I moved in, it was pretty straightforward because the box is already in the room. They didn't have to do any upgrades or anything like that. But
it's mainly the difference, or what I found when I've moved houses. It's whether they want to send an engineer out or they can just send you the pack.
Because exactly.
If they can just send you the pack, then chances are you can get online within 24 hours.
Otherwise, you've got to do the old-fashioned way of hotspotting from your mobile phone. I did that once. It was.
I do have a dongle, like a 500 gig dongle, ready to go just in case.
Perfect.
So yeah, I've got a bit of a backup.
I remember when those things first came out, and I've actually
tragic.
I've still got it in my bag because actually at the time when they were sort of first released, I was in a transition from spending time at my mum's and spending time at my dad's, and I mean, we've discussed this in previous podcasts, but I was actually banned from the internet at my mum's house because of some websites and businesses that I'd kind of set up. Lady H's home. So I bought one of these sort of pay-as-you-go dongles just so I could access the internet when I wasn't at my dad's house. And the thing was my lifeblood, I guess. I've still got it in my bag. It's just not a top. I have no idea whether it even works. I haven't used it in years.
It's a funny thing of like 10. If I think back 15 years ago, if the electricity went out, we were all like, now what do we do?
Yeah,
can't watch TV, can't do anything. It's like I can read a book. Now it's the same thing now, but it's like if the internet goes out, we're like, oh damn, we can't do anything.
I don't even know what I do. I struggle enough when I'm out in the car or something like that, and I haven't got signal on my mobile phone.
Yeah.
Like if I
so reliant,
or even if it drops down to 3G, it's bad enough.
Yeah, when you see that EE or H come out, you're like,
no. You're like, what does E even mean? Like, what? Such a weird thing. This is
not helping me. But so I mean, I guess we jump straight in. Obviously, patch 4.9 went live this week. Paul, your video for the sort
unofficial.
of unofficial deep dive into the patch notes went live this morning, but obviously this video is not going out till Sunday, so it went live on Friday. What was your kind of initial outlook, I guess, before we jump into the dupe system, of the patch in general?
I think one thing I've noticed, I think they're clocking on that we're obviously able to sort of read and understand the game data a little bit more. In the last patch, they obviously took out all of the unreleased champions. And normally they would sometimes like drop in some unreleased champions that were going to come up in the next month, like Sigmund the High Shield, for example, was in the data about a month before he came out. So I think they started to clock on a little bit that we're doing that, because I'm not seeing as many future changes. You know, there's nothing in there about Hydra. There's nothing in there other than like the one thing that is in there obviously hasn't released is we have some sort of ninja event coming, where, you know, it's just a guaranteed champion after 7 days. That seems to be definitely coming in Christmas. There's like a new portrait for that champion, but there's no info in the champion where normally there would have been. So, which I think is a good thing, to be honest, because
it keeps the mystery about it.
It keeps the mystery. I'm able to build a little bit of hype in there because can kind of say it's definitely something that's coming. It'll keep people interested. But obviously they want to do their own kind of promotion, which is fair enough. And it's an interesting debate that I've seen some people say, which is, well, you shouldn't be data mining. And in my head, I'm like, well, they shouldn't be putting it in the data then.
If it's not information, in every game.
If it's not information they don't want out in the public space, don't put it in the game, because it's not like they don't have an internal dev environment that they're developing champions on. There's no need to put it in the game data unless it's going live. So that's my take on it.
And I guess the thing is with data mining and things like that, this is information that you're pulling from your own computer.
Yes, it's not hacking their servers.
No, it's information that's being installed onto the client on your computer. So all you're doing is having a look to see what's being installed.
Yeah, and is it 100%? It's a 7-day full like ninja style. That's what it's reading in the game, is it?
So the previous, like if you think of the Shaman event and the Jizzo event and the Ninja event, it was always kind of like this. It's in the same, essentially the same object, where it's like 6 days of artifacts. And then on the 7th day, when you log in, you get the champion. There's a hero ID and there's a portrait for it. But there is no info on the champion. Like there's no, normally when you look at the game data, they'll have like hero types and there's like different skills that are connected to that hero type. None of that exists other than an ID. So I know it's definitely a new champion because the ID doesn't exist. But yeah, we don't know what it is yet, but it's definitely happening. They've even got a start and end date in there. So I think it starts on like the 1st or the 6th of December and it runs through to like the 22nd of January. So it's very soon.
Interesting. So and you said, have you shown anyone in the community the portrait?
It's in my video that's gone out.
It was,
today.
yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm just wondering, like, is there any guesses? Like, if it's another ninja style collaboration, which it could be, I feel like they might have told us about it already, but
really
they didn't
look like
before.
A person, though.
No.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, any guesses?
Well, originally,
I need to look at this picture. Actually, I've not seen that video yet.
Yeah. In the video, when I was talking about it in the video, I was like, oh, it looks like another demon spawn because it's got like a weird bug eye thing. It looks like something out of like Star Trek or something in terms of like.
It definitely looks like Knights Rev. That like dev.
I think it could be Shadowkin because it's got that blue hue about it.
True.
And they
and
seem
that
to be
would make
loving
sense.
it,
Maybe something that's really good for Faction Wars, because obviously we are waiting for them to drop Shadowkin Faction Wars as well. So maybe
that'd be a good way to introduce the faction. Actually, yeah.
Possibly that's what they're doing. Maybe they're going to drop the Faction Wars on the day that. So you do the 7 days, you get the champion, and Faction Wars unlocks.
Yeah, and Paul, is it guaranteed legendary? Do you see that, or do you just see an event? Okay, so it might literally just be, this is an update. We're no longer giving you Shaman as the champion, trash champion. We're going to give you someone good.
No, it's in addition.
Oh, it is? Ah, okay.
Because it's a start and end date. So it definitely starts on the, I think, I'm just checking my previous patch notes now when I was talking about it.
So it's like within a limited period, I guess.
Cool. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, so it's starting on the 1st of December, apparently, unless they change that date, which they might do, ending on the 20th. And it will definitely be a new champion, but it doesn't say whether it's a legendary or not. And the only other thing about it is obviously there is a 2-tiered artifact. So obviously earlier level accounts, there's a different sort of degree of artifacts you get. One's 4-star, the other one's 6-star. So I'd imagine like brand new players.
Artifacts they are?
I don't think I checked. I think they're not a set, but I could be wrong.
They should totally give us some of the Hydra sets.
I don't think they will. That's
unlikely.
Hopeful.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks like I don't know. He's obviously got like half of like a mask with eyes on it, like sort of bug eyes, and then he's got like a weird horn thing. So it looks awesome, as we always expect with the raid. But yeah.
Well, I guess everyone go and check out HH Gaming's other channel and check out that video for more info. That sounds cool, actually. I'm going to do that right
now. Yeah, so literally right at the end of the patch notes video, Paul drops like this little spoiler section, which just kind of finishes up the video, and it just shows this portrait that has been discovered within the sort of code that's out there in the game.
I would say when like for some people who don't know about data mining, there's a big difference between sort of like the cheat engine that was going around versus data mining. What we're not doing here is we're not writing any data to the game. It's the same thing with the optimizer. The optimizer doesn't write any data. It just reads what's in your account. So all I'm doing is just reading things that are actually already available, multiplier information. They don't show you it, but it's available to you because you used the champion. So I don't see any negative effects on it.
Yeah, it's a bit like when you install a game, the game installs a load of files on your computer, and all you're doing is clicking into those folders effectively and just seeing what's actually there. So you're more than entitled. Anyone is entitled to see what's been installed on their computer. So that's effectively all you're doing when you look at these files, and that's what I guess the difference between data mining and actually hacking server data and things like that. Which is
we're not writing anything to the game, so we can't. I'm not influencing what happens in the game. I'm just simply reading what the game is providing me. So that's a bit of a distinction. But I think generally patch 4.9, in terms of the heroes they've released, the new champions, I think they're all quite good in their own kind of distinct way. We've got like a new mega healer in with it, which I kind of want that champion because it looks like it could do some insane healing with someone like Demitha or a Krisk.
You and Demitha, I think you need to get a room.
Demitha is the new Whisper, okay? So Demitha is a god. Demitha is just brilliant and everything. The reason why I bring up Demitha is obviously if you can bring another champion that can do more continuous heals, the fact that she extends them and then also forces them to heal, to proc, it's just an insane amount of healing that she's going to put out. And obviously we've got all of them seem to do new unique things.
That's the cool thing, isn't it? Like each of them, it just brings a bit more to the game when you look at. I think it's passives, isn't it? You look at passives, you're like, damn, that passive looks really cool, or could be really good down the line when we start to understand, how you kind of pair that champion with someone else. I was actually just going through on. Yeah, I was going through on the website this morning, just starting to rate all of these different champions. And like you say, Paul, all of them feel like maybe one of the epics could be a little bit weakish, but they've all got their own place where in the right team, they're going to be pretty strong. So
I think in general, like the champions that we've had really for the past, 6 months or so, they've been up a notch as to where they have been previously. Like, I mean, they've just got cool things like Calvalax, for example. I just love the way that champion works. I mean, he's an absolute beast, but it's just a different way of thinking about the same sort of set of rules that are already in the game, I guess.
Well, I'd say actually, it's only been the last 3 months they've done that. The 3 months prior, it started to get a bit, it's another AoE decreased attack, or it's another AoE decreased defense. There wasn't anything original about the champions. Then they started with obviously Calvalax, which to some extent you could argue isn't original because it's basically a poison hedge.
Well, when did Brogni come? That must have been 6 months ago, surely.
Yes, I'm talking about the window between kind of Brogni, and then like the Sigmund the High Shield one, because that's when we started seeing things like Demitha come in, Calvalax around the same time. Then we've got like this new batch of champions. Every single one of them has something that no other champion in the game kind of does. You have Thalesia, who's able to do kind of a spread debuff on an A1. That's a brand new, nobody really does that. I'm really curious to see the performance value of like the non-fusion epic Urticata, because that seems to be like the first champion that's essentially a poisoner that doesn't actually place poisons through a passive. So that could be really interesting, especially when we start thinking about, like, you think how powerful Thalesia A1 is going to be now. against Hydra, that it can randomly spread debuffs on A1 to 4 enemies. Like the power of that skill has just gone up now that Hydra's come in. Especially considering it brings Hex and a decreased defense, AoE. That's, anyone who did Sigmund the Hide Shield is bonkers, basically. That's my ruling point around all of this.
Yeah. So I guess moving on to the biggest thing that dropped in 4.9, which is the major controversy across the board at the moment, but I personally, I feel like it's slightly overplayed because of how dramatic an impact it's making right now, is the dupe system. So, Mr. HellHades, what's your first impressions and second and third impressions, I guess, of and fourth impressions, if we're going to fully empower things, on the dupe system?
Yeah, so I feel like they've got some really good parts to the dupe system. And I personally really like the faction guardians element. So I think, it's not crazy buffs, but it's good buffs to get your kind of faction guardians. It gives you a reason to keep dupes. You get a decent amount of boost. It will help you through different areas of content you're struggling with. So personally, I think faction guardians kind of nailed it for the dupe system.
Basically like a mini Great Hall.
Yeah, that's it. So it's boosting your stats. It's helping you through different areas. If you're a new player, you can go and farm rares and boost your rares up. If you're a more kind of mid-tier, lower spender player, you're going to have a decent amount of epics and hopefully a few dupe epics to empower your epics. And then for the whales, they've got their legendaries they can empower as well. So I feel like it kind of fit everybody and it works. So I like it. I really like that part.
And then?
The other two parts, I think, are crazy, but for different reasons. Like I feel like they've almost got them the wrong way around. Like the token trader for me should have been the area where everybody would use it. It was like the average player should just trade in their dupes, get their 500 points, and then the way I would have done it is to have, I think I would have done it with two options. So each of the legendaries that are in there, which you're hand picking, 2,000 tokens, but then also a random legendary back, totally random, which would have been 1,500 tokens. So like a random button, you put you
that's a good idea.
Unbind 3, you'd only get something random, very similar to what we see in other games. That's what I would have done with it. And then I feel like that's where most players would have put their extra legendary champions.
Yeah, and it's just the guys, I guess, that haven't already or have already got like the top tier legendaries that then look at the empowering.
But then I feel like the empowering should never be what it is. I mean, it's so
too strong,
stupid. It's actually beyond ridiculous. And this is so the two things which I'm upset about is firstly, the token trader is not for the average player. In fact, it probably is for no player. It's
dead on arrival. That's the word I used in the patch notes. It's dead on arrival.
It's
if you use it, what's the point?
It's so expensive.
It's so over the top expensive. It's ridiculous, which makes it almost irrelevant. It makes it invisible. So therefore, you've only got two options. The faction guardians, I think, for the longer term players that want to get the extra gains longer term. But then we look at this empowering thing now, and it's so strong that it's making me second guess whether even faction guardians is the way to go. I'm like, maybe I should just be going to level 2 empowerment and taking some of those crazy stats. The one-off champion that I'm actually using, certainly for arena, I'm like, should I just empower my Duchess to level 2 instead of using the faction guardians now? Because it's so dumb and overpowered. And I absolutely would not have done this. I mean, I said it in a video I did with Ash. I would much rather empowerment was just aesthetic stuff. And I mean, people might disagree with me, but I think people would still do what they're doing, the +1 to 4, but to get cooler looking champions.
I mean, it wouldn't need to be done. Looking. That's the difference, right? Right now, empowerment, if you want to compete, you have to empower. It's not a requirement. It's essential because, I don't care what anyone says. If you're in top 50 Platinum Arena or something, all of them have got +4 rotuses. You can't compete. Just the raw stat power.
Well, I'm shocked by how many people I've seen that can +4.
Yeah.
I'm literally, I cannot believe my eyes. There's so many accounts that are just getting multiple +4s now on relevant champions. It's not just like the one or two champions, on the relevant champions in the game.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, the crazy stat gain, we've seen McChan doing a video where he's just blowing up everyone with a
one tap in
Rotus.
Crisps with increased defense and a full shield. Like, come on, he's not even got increased attacker. Like, just there's a sentence that got me in that video more than anything else was, I'll probably never use my Duchess in Platinum Arena resets because I haven't got max faction guardians. Like, so he's basically saying he doesn't need Duchess because the other champs are empowered, and because it's not got the +10 speed, there's just no point. I don't need it. Like, to me, that's just, you basically made a champion irrelevant for him because he hasn't got a dupe. Like, that's a problem.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Platinum ends this week.
Yeah. How many +4s are we going to see?
Well, as well as that, it'd be interesting because, I mean, the top sort of 20 players tend to be the same people each week. And I just wonder, if there's a power shift, even short term, somebody who could maybe not have pushed top 10 before, or top 50 before, because they've actually got all these dupes and they don't necessarily have the same gear as these top guys, how they actually get pushed up the ranks.
So I did some math yesterday, and I think I was sharing it in our internal Discord. So effectively, if we're talking pure damage numbers, the faction guardians will give your epics and legendaries around about a 3 to 4% damage boost.
Yep.
That's in terms of like on hit. Now, the thing about empowerment that is going under the radar is not so much that you get the raw stats. It's the fact that those raw stats free up rolls to be used on other pieces of gear. So if you've got 25 speed and you've got 10% crit rate and you've got 30% crit damage, that's around about 6 to 7 extra substat rolls that you can put into attack, or you can put into more crit damage. So you're actually, it's almost like this double stacking is double counting, because you're getting the raw bonuses on top of the fact that you can now roll and use like what you would normally consider weaker gear that actually is more focused on like more damage. This is how we're seeing huge numbers. So what that actually translates to is, whilst Guardians give you 3%, a fully empowered and then adjusted build to account for the fact that you can roll and use a wider range of gear is about 45% more damage. And it only applies to legendaries. So what you basically end up is situations like Pixniel's A2 will do more damage when fully empowered than Gembo the Dishonored. And Gembo is like the best epic nuker in the game for, outside of Skullcrown, probably one of the top 3 nukers in the epic pool of champions. Yeah. He doesn't even get a look in. Vergamkar's A2 will do more damage than a Gembo when fully empowered. This is the problem. You've basically...
It's something, isn't it?
And it's something that Ash had in his interview, where he asked them, is there going to be any love for rares and epics in this game? Yeah. This system basically says no. Because this system now is telling us that legendary champions are all that really matters when it comes to competitive aspects of the game. Like, if you want to speed run and win a tournament, you're going to be at a disadvantage if someone can basically pump a Seer up and not need as many buffs. If Seer can get away with 1 row of buffs now, because it's just, Seer's a bad example, I suppose, because of epics, but you know what I mean? If someone can basically run like a fast speed run without needing all of those raw stats before, then that's a bit of an issue, especially when we're going into a year of competitive PvP. It's kind of almost saying, if you don't pull a legendary champion, you're at a disadvantage, because there's no way that you can make your epic champions to be on par with a legendary once you get up to that 4th state of empowerment.
Sure. And the thing is, I kind of get it. Legendary champions are meant to be the best in the game. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's so far beyond an acceptable amount of extra damage or extra survivability or whatever. So it's just so far beyond it that it's laughable, honestly. And I've got to say, it's the first time, and I've been doing content for 2 years. I'm playing the game for, 2.5 bit more than that. It's the first time I've ever been concerned that Raid have made like a drastically crap decision. That is honestly, and it is, and they've made some clangers in the past, but not ones which I think they could never have come back from, or very short term poor decisions. This one, I think, is long term a really bad one, like really bad. I'm genuinely concerned about how they can come back from it, because we're already like 3 or 4 days too late for them to take it away.
It's never going to happen, is it?
No,
Because
we gave them this
upset too many
feedback.
people.
We had a test server. We tested it. We said this is completely dumb.
Right, it goes before that, if you think about it, because they hinted that this would be the dupe system months ago, and every single person that I saw comment about it, nobody liked it. Nobody wanted, the concept of burning your duplicates into empowering one duplicate. Everyone was like, no, please don't do this. This is a terrible idea. And he even acknowledged that in Ash's interview, where he said, we asked him that question. Oh yeah, we've changed. We did react to player feedback and we changed the system. And it's actually, no, you didn't change the system. You just built 2 other systems to try and hide the fact that this is the system that you always intended to do. And you didn't really matter, you didn't really care what players thought, because if you listened back then, like, 70% of the player base at least were like, please don't do this. This is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
All the content creators would have been, don't do this. This is a terrible idea. So I don't know. I mean, I suppose to some extent, there's 2 ways you can look at it. If you're not competing in Platinum Arena, does it really impact you? Probably not.
Well, that's the thing that I'm going to be interested to see, because I thought the answer to that was absolutely not. I thought it was 100% not. No chance. But I'm interested now to see how far down it filters, because there's way more, like hundreds more accounts that I'm starting to see with crazy stuff that I didn't expect to see. So I'm curious to see how far into Gold 4 it goes. I mean, I don't think it's going to filter much further down than that, but it's still, I don't know. It feels like it's a massive concern for the game. Not that, I mean, I enjoy PvP. I used to enjoy it a lot more than I do now. I think they've added a lot of stuff this year, which has made PvP much worse, honestly. If you start to think about reaction gear, swift parry gear, the amount of RNG that goes into basically every fight now.
It feels like they were trying to counter the speed meta and what they've ended up doing is just making it almost impossible to build a reliable strategy instead of having counters, because it always used to be speed is king. If you had fastest arbiter, you would win any race. This was before they had the forge, so swift parry wasn't really relevant. We didn't have reaction. So if you went first and you did your standard sort of, arbiter increase attack into decrease defense into nuke, you'd win the race. Now it's kind of like, people saying they don't even bother using speed teams because you can't win by just nuke because of reaction, because of swift parry. So yeah, I don't know what the impact of Stone Skin is going to be, but I've seen a lot of plat players kind of say it's not that good over swift parry. Or they wouldn't drop it for swift parry. And I do wonder how difficult it's going to be to actually build sets, because I remember watching your videos like way back when you were first doing platinum runs. And the end of the week, you'd be like, oh, I've got some trash swift parry gear. I can't really make one set. So what's the point? Is that going to be what Hydra's going to be?
It takes a long time. Yeah.
It looks like we're going to get 7 rewards per chest, which would be a bit similar to Clan Boss, where we get 1 a day. And then obviously, I guess if we kill the Hydra boss, we'll get another 7. So we're talking, 14 pieces a week?
Well, it actually feels similar to PvP to me, in terms of, each week you've got a chance to get this gear. You get a chest full of, like you say, 7 odd pieces. It feels very similar to the arena style. So the people that do it every week, week in, week out, give it a few months and then going to have sets.
Yeah.
Very similar to what we got with Swift Parry now. It took a long time for it to happen, but once people got it, they actually then stepped ahead of everyone else, because it was kind of acknowledged just how crazy this set is, but not as we originally thought it would be crazy in essence.
I think the mythic stuff is going to, again, like if we think about stat bloat, we think obviously, okay, faction guardians, it's going to bloat it a bit. Empowerment bloats it a lot. And then you start talking about mythic gear, where you get a spear substat roll. It's not necessarily going to mean you're going to drop your swift parry maybe, but that cruel set that you were running for 15% attack, if your mythic piece rolls with attack already, then you might have 14% on one piece this. You might be better off running 2 of this set for double mythic attack percentage than you would for the 5% ignore defense and cruel. So I think those off pieces are going to bloat those pieces even more than what they already do now, because you're getting a 5th substat roll. So I think as off pieces, that's going to add value more than it's going to be a full set, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, it feels like them saying, oh, well, bombs will do damage to Stone Skin. It's like you still don't grasp the concept and problem of bombs. Fundamentally, they're flawed if the bomb champion is like wet noodle paper, can't take a hit. That's like, you know,
Yeah.
They're going to have reaction. So, okay, I suppose you can blow the reaction. The bombs don't do enough to kill empowered +4 Ursuga with 130,000 HP. It's never going to kill it. So what does it really matter, you know? And it's the same thing with the bommel changes. It's not enough.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that they're looking at increased resistance as a different type of setup. But I do feel like the way PvP, the direction it's moving in is this very unkillable defense. I guess maybe that's why they got these +4 empowered guys to blow up these unkillable people, because you know, you imagine Stone Skin on a Surga team all running 100 speed because they've got literally no speed. It's going to be like the opposite. For Arena, I want 0 speed in any substat on any of my defensive champions, and they just stand there like absolute towers.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they don't need it, right?
Because try and get through this wall.
The thing is, they get 10 speed from the Guardian, then they'll get 5 speed from Empowerment 1 and 10 speed from Empowerment 2. So they get 25 speed before they even get started on top of their base speed, you know, and then you put on a couple of speed sets maybe. So they don't actually need to run speed substats to get yourself up to about 180, 190. And as you said, then if you're running Stone Skin, you're running whatever. It just
it'll be interesting to see. Like, the biggest thing for me is, I think you said it really, Saf. Everybody's just got a bit stronger. Like, every single account's just got a little bit stronger through Faction Guardians anyway. So all of the content's got a bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. How hard are they going to make Hydra? And is it going to be only viable for empowered people? Because if it is, then that's dumb as well. Like, that should never be the case that you have to buy in any game. You have to buy your way to be able to play a game mode. That's really stupid. So I can't see a world where this much extra stats makes any sense.
I did a bit of a theory craft test with my Turvold, because obviously I run the Fushan comp and I put Turvold in it now. And I basically calculated on my current gear, assuming I've been empowered and dropping like the speed and the accuracy and the resistance down to factor in the benefits of a Guardian empowered, then I could take my 7,000 attack, 249% crit damage Turvold to 7,900 and 325% crit damage. So his Juggernaut went from doing about 600,000 to 1 million just by having pulling shards and having dupes. It's just, you know, and I suppose that's my concern from a PvE point of view. Is there used to be this thing where you could like compete to try and get the best key or the fastest time, and that was a lot to do with, you know, ability, you know, understanding how to find a new tune or tweak the tune to do a bit more damage, or running dungeons to get better gear. So obviously there was still a bit of luck, but that was kind of like capped at how much you wanted to run the dungeons. You still need to put the time in. Now it's like, unless I've got, you know, whatever I do, if I'm trying to compete with someone who's got more money than me, they're probably going to have the record because they've just got the empowerment. And that's kind of, for someone who wants to like maybe push times or push records, it almost like defeats the point of even trying now, because you know you're going to be facing someone with a +4 empowered Turvold who's just going to do more damage in a clan boss key, or a +4 ninja who's going to do more damage in a clan boss key. So it'll be interesting to see how hard Hydra is. I have my kind of provisional teams already set out that I'll probably do a video on next week in terms of my thought processes. But that is heavily...
Just a question for you though, Dan. So at the start of this, you kind of said you feel like it's maybe a bit over the top.
Yep.
So what are you thinking there? What makes you say that?
Well, so my thought process is that I think it is a power creep. And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people are focusing on the sheer amount of damage that's going out. However, I guess one of the major things that I sort of said in comments to people is that a one shot is still a one shot. If Trondra's going to one shot your team, it doesn't matter how much overkill she's going to do. She's still going to one shot your team. And yes, she's going to be annihilating you. But as well as that, with these offensive stats scaling, the defensive stats are also scaling when you empower. So I think I get from the point that people are sort of upset about the raw damage and stuff that people are now doing. Obviously you're still limited by the fact that these are gated behind shards, but plenty of people that I've seen will have one decent champion and they seem to keep pulling that same champion over and over and over again, and so I think yes, it feels very extreme right now, but I think in 6 months time it's gonna feel a lot less dramatic than it does at this point right at the moment. I think
what's your direction on your account personally? Are you going to empower or do faction guardians or do a bit of both?
So I've done faction guardians for a large majority of my teams. However, arena and potentially clan boss as well, because I run the Bat Eater. If I have anything that I can empower into that, then I'm going to do that. Obviously try not to mess with speed tunes. But yeah, arena 100%. I think empower. Outside of that, I would say, for me anyway, looking at the stats, that my priority is into faction guardians, just to improve overall the game, and obviously boost up the arena champions that I'm using at the same time. That might be wrong though.
I think the only other thing I would say about empower as well, which I think is a bit wrong, is the fact you get so much for the 4th capstone. It feels like they should have maybe taken the crit damage and the crit rate and sort of naturalized it across all of them, so you had like a little bit on each step.
Yeah,
I also think jump.
I was going to say, I also think you should be able to empower epics.
I agree.
If you could empower epics, it would make that almost that. But then again, it's so much easier to
just half the values though.
Yeah,
instead of 40%, they get 20%, right?
It's that fear of making an empowered epic better than a standard legendary, I guess, or
yeah,
or whatever.
That's exactly it. Yeah, they don't want someone to be able to just, let's say take Skull Crown. We know Skull Crown hits really hard.
Yep.
So if Skull Crown all of a sudden can be, close to a Trunda, a four Skull Crown versus a Trunda is similar.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to do.
But you could scale it. I think you could do it. You could. But I think the problem is they've made legendaries so much stronger because they want you to pull legendaries that they've left epics behind. So, if I was redesigning, I'd kind of go, right, okay, look, if you want the empowered system, that's fine. Bring the stats down. Don't make them so aggressive. Naturalize them across all points. So, because if you think about it, you don't get a lot from empowering one champion. If someone said to you, you can lose your second Duchess, but you get 10% crit rate, 10% HP, 10% defense, and 10% attack, you'd be laughed out of the room. Nobody would do it. They only do it because by the end of the 4th one, you get so much more. You get that 25 speed. So if they made it so that speed, crit rate, crit damage, and maybe the accuracy and the resist kind of happened to every empowerment, that would be a bit fairer for people who maybe have, like, I've got 3 Kreelas. So I might empower one of those Kreelas to get myself maybe like 3% crit damage, 1% crit rate, maybe 1 speed. But there's no point me empowering just one, because I'm not gonna burn a duplicate out of my faction guardians for just 10% of the main stats. It's not worth it then. So I think if you just bring the stats down to maybe like 25% of the primary stat, and then epics could be like maybe 5 to 10%, because the value of the epic is lower, therefore it's not as expensive to burn, and then you're not necessarily making them stronger than the legendary. It's better then, but they won't do that. It is what it is now.
I was going to say, do you think there's any way they can do that now?
Yes, they could roll it back, because obviously when you empower, you don't lose the artifacts, do they? It kind of goes back into your artifact inventory. So what they could do is they could go, guys, we've messed up. Everyone who's empowered is going to get 4 of the same champion back as 6 stars. They could do that. It's not difficult, and it's not like they're giving people free stuff, because all they're saying is we're refunding you what we've empowered and we're going to redesign the empowerment system. The whales might whinge about the fact they had a really cool hit, but ultimately they haven't lost anything. You know, if you want to give them some silver because they're going to have to re-gear or something, that's fine.
But think about, like, so we're already in a 2 times on Sacred today.
Yeah.
Think about how many people in that group have spent money or in their heads anyway, they've spent money they wouldn't have spent because of this today. Yeah. This is just, with every day that goes past,
that would be an issue.
It becomes harder and harder to make any sort of change to this. With it, literally every single minute that passes, someone else has just spent another $500 or whatever on the shard pack that just
purpose,
dropped.
Right? That's why the system exists.
From Plarium's point of view, short term, they're going to make a mint.
I just feel
like long term, well, maybe long term, but I feel like long term, it's the worst thing for the game I've seen.
It's going to bring the whales back out of hiding. The people who already had all the champions who I've defeated, now they're going to go, oh, I can get like a +4 empowerment. I'll just keep pulling shards then. You know, your likes of your Coltrane, who sold his main account to get his alt account because he couldn't pull anything else, and now he just pulls it all on his alt account. Those types of players, they are in short supply, but they're all going to come back out of hiding now. You know,
I think they've shown that they're not afraid to do that though. What they did with Eurogrim.
I think there's a big difference between nerfing a very, very, very broken champion that everyone thought was OP.
But right after they put an event on which made people wail to get him, is my point. I don't
think he was a ×10, was he?
No, a lot of people thought he was, but he never was.
Oh, right, okay.
it was like a community myth that came out of nowhere, and someone was like, "Oh, they baited us into it." The one they baited people was Bommel.
Think of the community comeback on that, and that's just nerfing an OP champion.
And it's an epic.
Yeah, compared to what they would have to do to write this, which is basically, like you say, Paul, a rollback or I can't think of anything else. Yeah, it would. I think it's already too late. It's in the game. It's happened. It's happened.
Yeah.
We've got to live with it. But I feel like it's a shockingly bad choice.
They can't even drop the stats because you'd have the same arguments. I wouldn't have empowered them if I knew it was that bad.
Well, what they could do. And I know Simon's suggested this before, is just switch it off in arena.
That would be a good solution, but then again, you have the same argument of, well, I wouldn't have empowered it if I knew it didn't work in arena. It's like it's too late.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything that you do now is going to annoy some people. Now you might be able to go, well, I accept 5% of the player base is going to quit over my decision, but it's better for the 95%. But Plarium have proven in the past that it doesn't matter what they develop, they normally stick to their guns. You know, 3 versus 3. I don't think anyone really likes it. And what they actually did was force you to fight more by reducing the gold bars you got per week. Clan versus clan, nobody really likes it. So what they did was force you to do it more by giving you personal rewards and basically saying, here's where you're going to get the good stuff. You know, basically trying to push you into it, make you summon more during it. It's not a solution to the underlying dislike of the system. It's how can we make it so that you have no other choice? And essentially that's going to be the case for the empowerment. They're not going to nerf it now. I mean, we told them about it 4 months ago and they didn't really, it sounds like they built it 4 months ago. Everyone was like, don't make us empower the champions. We don't like it. And they still did it. And just instead developed 2 more systems as almost like, you know, well, it's not, you don't have to empower. It's not mandatory. Just like, you know, 500 tokens is a free legendary champion, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
of course, why wouldn't you want 500 life tokens that I can't use at all?
It's
over.
I mean, it's scary, but the thing is, I feel like they don't make these decisions lightly.
It's financially motivated.
Well,
like they know this is going to go shard pulling, boom, 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 all the way up.
But as Simon said, like short term, that may be the case. But I feel like they're still thinking, you know, months in advance. I don't think that they're thinking about what's going on today or tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
I suppose.
Yeah, as I said, I may be wrong about this, but I just think from a business of their size and the amount of people that are involved in making these decisions, if they were that, or if they even had sort of the inkling that this was going to destroy the game and the way that the game works, I feel like they wouldn't have done it.
I guess time will tell, won't it? I mean, we've got a Hydra boss coming. They've just done the what's next in raid video, which I'm buzzed for it. I think they've got some cool stuff coming down the line.
Yeah,
and they're also looking to fix some of the quality of life stuff which we need. So it's not kind of like all doom and gloom. I just feel like it's such a weirdly dumb decision, even for them.
It's classic Plarium. It's make lots of good things happen and then just make really one dumb thing done, and that's all the people are going to focus on.
Yeah.
You know, instead of us being excited about Hydra and the quality of life changes, the big thing that nobody's paying attention really to is the AI change. You know, us being able to configure teams to use different skills depending on whether it's the floor of the boss or the waves is massive. Like in terms of speed running, it's that decision of Ice Golem. I want Seer to use Karma Burn on the first 2 waves, but I don't want her to use it on the boss because she keeps killing my team. But at the same time, if I don't bring Seer, I can't kill the waves very quickly. I can now basically tell her, don't use Karma Burn on A3, and my runs all of a sudden might be significantly more reliable and faster by that one change alone. And I think, you know, those sorts of things kind of get washed over because now everyone's like, oh, what? So Mac-Chan's Rotas can basically one-tap anything in Arena. That's great. I'm so excited about that. Because that's what they're going to... the players of this game are basically fixated on things that don't really add up. You know, when the daily change came in and basically we swapped the Sacred Shard for the guaranteed legendary, everyone wants the chance to not get a legendary, even though they're getting a guaranteed legendary. It's just that's the mentality of players have.
But as well as that, to bear in mind, like people in uproar about somebody like Mac-Chan's Rotos being able to one-shot anyone in Arena. How many people does that actually affect? How many of those people who are complaining about it? How many of those people are complaining about it are planning to go against him in Platinum? Because it's such a small percentage of the player base that you're talking about there.
True. But for players of this type of game, it doesn't matter because they're agreeing with envy, essentially, because they're looking at it going, I can never compete with that. So their mentality doesn't affect me. I'll carry on playing. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to quit the game.
But I mean,
that's the mentality.
But the main thing to ask yourself is, were you competing with that anyway? Were you getting up, you know, a ridiculous o'clock in the morning every Monday to make sure that you're pushing Platinum? Because if you weren't doing those things, does it actually really matter?
No.
But an interesting point for me. I have been getting back into Plat.
Yep.
And I don't want to play Plat on Monday.
That's what I was going to say.
So I'm not. I was never competing with Mac-Chan. So I wasn't that level. I was like the next level of player down, trying to push into the top 300, but not a top 100 player. And I'm looking at this thinking, I don't empower anyone. Is it worth my time? Like, it's going to be, it's going to be a bit of a farce. And I'm someone who spent a significant amount in this game, like more than I like to talk about.
So I mean, we all have, but
I bought a pack today and I pulled 4 Sacred Shards and I got 3 legendaries out of it. So
you actually,
what did you get?
I got a dupe Rotos, I got a dupe Smash Lord, and I got a Ghostborn.
Like that, 2 of those champions are really good. Ghostborn is great for speedrunning, and Rotos is just the one thing I didn't mention when I was talking about stats. The thing about this dupe system.
Sorry, it's not Rotos. Ignore me. It was Razin.
That's significant.
It was rubbish. I haven't even got Rotos on my account.
But the thing about Rotos, which is unique in the dupe system, is champions who scale off double attack, attack and HP, double types of damage, are going to basically get significantly more bonuses than those that don't, because effectively they're not getting 40% damage, they're getting 80%. So, you saw in Mac-Chan's video, he was running HP rain and HP attack and HP banners because he scales off both stats and he's getting most of his attack from the empowerment. So I think someone, as usual in Plarium, didn't quite figure out the math here and realize that those types of champions are going to get even worse or even more powerful because of the fact of the way that their mechanics work, which when they built those probably wouldn't have been an issue because the multipliers would have been scaled based on the fact that, you have to trade.
Have we seen any ridiculous Valks or anything like that? Because I know
he's another one.
The focus is on the sort of the more attack-based champions, but what about people like Valk who, provides insane utility, and if you're going to make her even stronger, like I don't know what sort of defense that people have achieved with Valk in general. I know I got mine up to like 8k defense, but I guess with this, you know, we're going to be pushing
10k probably.
10 12k maybe,
because of the extra stats you can roll as a
Yeah.
result of not needing as much stats, you know, because you don't need the 10% crit rate necessary. You don't need the speed. And she as well, Valk as well, is a dual stat attack on A1. She scales off 2 stats, so she gets more benefit as well. Mountain King, another one. He's going to be really strong again because he scales off both stats. So you can basically pick the better primary stat rings you've got and just do as much damage as, if not more, before. So I think we'll need to see the platinum reset. That'll really tell us how bad empowerment will be for people who want to compete in PvP. Because if all of them at the top 300 are all +4, +3, +2, you know, even +2 on a Duchess is bad enough. You know, 20% more HP in defense you've got to break through.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah,
it's a lot if you're not bringing any plus champions yourself.
Yeah, it's actually 30% if you think, because they've probably got the Guardian as well, because 10% HP on the first Guardian is almost a given for most factions. Even I think I'm only missing 2 myself in the faction Guardian for the first 10% HP. So you got to fight through 30% HP. Defense is not so much a big of an issue, but when you think they've now got an extra, if they fully empower, fully Guardian, 85 resistance you've got to break down, it just becomes, you know, it goes back to one of the first videos I think I ever watched on your channel, HellHades, which is like figuring out what you put into Great Hall. And most of the time people would go accuracy and resist, or at least accuracy and then defense maybe. And I went for resist because the concept was, if I'm in the arena and someone has got 80 resist, then by having 80 accuracy, I've neutralized that. Whereas now, if they're +4 empowered, I'm already 85 behind. Before I even get started with artifacts, you've always got that kind of barrier that you have to overcome unless you do it yourself, which means it neutralizes it. So if I've got like Mac Chan versus Coltrane, it probably doesn't make a difference to them because they're both +4 empowered, they're both equal. It'll be the difference between your HellHades of the world or a bunch of people in our Discord who push plat every week, get, you know, sometimes top 50 places, who have come out of this going, oh, damn, I'm not actually a bigger whale than I thought I was. I haven't really got anywhere near. I can't really empower. They're going to be...
I think it opens your eyes when you see accounts like what Simon was showing on his stream the other day.
Yeah.
Just
I'd say the best comment in that video was, oh, is it booked?
I was like, they're all booked. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
The dude has got 8 Kaimars. If he hasn't got it booked, there's seriously a problem going on here. That was the best comment I heard in that video. But yeah, that's it. Those are the players that you have to compete against in Platinum now. 8 Kaimars. You know, Mac Chan has got 4 Necrets. Necret hasn't been in the game that long.
If they choose to push plat is the other thing.
Yeah, but I mean, you could literally just put any 4+4 team in, you probably get into plat. This is what I think is going to happen.
But it still requires you to be up at the time to be able to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to get knocked out.
Yeah,
that's the thing, because it's the players who are actually willing to put in that time effort as well as the financial effort.
At one point, do it. Mac Chan's defense of Ursuga, Sify, Duchess, I think, Candrathon could basically place in plat without him actually competing in plat because nobody could kill it.
Awesome.
Because by the time they killed Ursuga, Sify would revive, and then by the time they killed Sify, Duchess would just be unkillable. They couldn't ever keep it down, and your block revive champions just didn't do enough damage. So he basically placed by putting his defense in and chilling. That was a while ago now. Obviously, it's a different meta, but
scary to think.
We'll have to see. It'll be really interesting. I don't push plat myself, but I keep an eye on it from time to time to see, you know, what's the meta is, who's doing what are they placing. But it seems to be most of the people who push plat are saying just run Sify double Rotus and win. So like it was already that a little bit before. Because I remember Senti, who's in our Discord community, does a lot of math for the community, was saying to HellHades at time, just run that team rather than trying to find other teams. It's so much more reliable. It may take like 20 seconds more, but it beats most defenses because Rotus eventually gets going. So I think that's, if you're going to empower Rotuses, it just makes that even more reliable. So we'll have to see. That's my thoughts on it.
I think we've got a lot of interesting stuff coming up, and there are stuff that obviously we have concerns about, but at the same time, there's also some cool stuff turning up in the game in the next few weeks as well. So we'll see how the community reacts when these things kind of hit the scene, and whether they'll take some of the drama off of these empowered champions with people able to focus on some new PvE content in form of the Hydra boss.
So quick hit. Are both of you doing the epic fusion that's on right now, Vildrax?
Only by proxy, really, that I'm just running the events.
I'm not doing it on my main account. I am doing it on my free-to-play.
Okay, interesting.
But so I'm actually just about to do a guide on Vildrax, and before I do it, I feel like he's probably the best champion we've got so far that can empower the two big hitters, Ruel and Thea.
Even including Cleo in that list.
I mean, maybe Cleo is different, but I feel like he's the only one that can stay alive through stuff.
True.
Yeah, so he's like
Cleo's a bit glass cannon, right?
Yeah, he's more of a support-based champion to do it, whereas all of the rest so far are all nukers that can also set up the other nuker. Yeah. So I feel like he's probably the best one we've got so far. But the trouble with all of them so far is I don't think any of them place the hex. They all hit to place a hex, and they're all different affinities. So it's kind of, you've got affinity issues all the way around.
It is good that they're different in some extent, because we're not locked into, at the time when Ruel and Thea were out, it was kind of like you would always have a bit of an issue because we didn't have one for every affinity. They seem to be favoring towards spirit champions for hex a lot. Vildrax is the first one that's magic. Spirit and force have been the preference. I don't think I've seen any void hex champions at all. I think that's not in the game yet.
If he'd been places hex instead of hits, I mean, his hits are weak anyway. If he'd been places hex as his ability, or if we get one that does, then I think the meta could swing towards hex. I think it's still a bit too dodgy.
Valencia places it on a passive, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
that's
not a good enough setup, is it? Like, in terms of setting up your damage,
because it's still an attack,
AoE place.
Yeah. It's 50%. It's not terrible. It's 50%, but I do. You want it reliable, otherwise it's just not going to work. I think, to be honest, what they've been building hex up for is Hydra, because obviously one of the Hydra heads will deflect damage if you haven't got hex out. So I think you do need to bring it. That's the mischief head, and he can be a bit of a pain if you don't have hex and you want to kill him. But yeah, I'm actually quite excited for this fusion epic. I think the only thing I would say is, and I mentioned this in the video, it feels like someone accidentally made him an attack-based nuker or an attack-based damage dealer.
I saw that you mentioned that, actually.
Because his base attack is like, he looks like he should be defense-based in terms of his base stats. 2,500.
I guess I think they've done it on purpose, that they want him to be super weak.
Yeah, he's there to facilitate
the strongest people in the game.
Yeah, it's just weird. I feel like you could have made him still reasonably low damage hit and make him defense based, and it just feels like he's like another Brogni and Man-Eater type thing, where the base stats are so low, they've then gone, oh, well, we better boost up his like multipliers to make him just even slightly relevant. But then if you can get a lot of attack on them, then he probably will do a fair amount of damage, I guess. I just feel like they should have maybe made him defense based. That's my two things. But the books again are a bit of an issue as well. Like, can they stop making so many books on an epic champion? Like 8th on an A1. Oof.
That's a lot.
Crazy.
Brutal.
Yeah,
brutal. But yeah, I actually think he's going to be really good, just because he is a debuff extension with Hex, and he's got an A1 leech to some extent. So he's kind of like in that realm of someone who can do a lot in terms of sustaining Hex, keeping debuffs going, especially for people who maybe don't have your Viziers. Obviously Dark Hail can do it now, but that's potentially a long way away for some players. He's a good kind of budget option for those sorts of things. So he's interesting.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap the podcast up there. Thank you, obviously, for joining again. And for those who are still with us, if you do enjoy the content that we put out on this channel, please do subscribe and like the video because it massively helps us out. We are doing a Christmas party tomorrow for the HH Gaming team, which should be entertaining. I'm going to take my camera with me. Who knows if we'll end up filming anything. If we do, then maybe I'll put some highlights together to put on this channel, and obviously take some pictures to share with you guys so that you can see what we get up to. But until the next podcast, we will see you next week.